Here is how we lost $130,000 in one real estate deal. Watch it until the end so that you can avoid making the same mistake. It's called SMP strategy. I actually first learned this from a Rich Dad Poor Dad organization, and then there's so many other educational company was also teaching the same thing. So what SMP really means is that strategy, market, and property, and you do want to go through the analysis in the right sequence. Most people, when they learn about real estate, they get super excited about the properties, and all of a sudden they just jump into the property searching immediately without taking the very first thing into consideration. That's where you can actually lose money, because the same amount of property might work differently in different markets. And we made that mistakes even last year without going through this whole process. And also some people, they might be looking at strategy without looking at the market, and they go straight to the property, such as house flipper or wholesaler. Hey, this strategy sounds very good and I want to do this, without considering which market they're in. They're looking at a distressed property, or they can't even find a distressed property because they're in a market where there's a lot of new build. Or they end up finding something that requires a bit of fixer-upper, but they're having trouble competing with all the new builds. It is really critical for all of us to be following this sequence. How do you actually identify what strategy makes sense to you? So there's a couple of things to really consider. Number one is, are you in a position to actually do a lot of active involvement in your investment project? That usually means that you're going to be doing a flip conversion, or even like you're flipping the contract, you're dealing with the permits, all those value add stuff to your property to really boost up that appreciation or equity of the property. This requires a lot of time. This almost should be treated as running its own business. So you do want to see whether or not you're in the position to do that. Now, for more passive role, let's say you just want to be quiet, you just want to focus on what you're doing on a daily basis, your full-time job, you're running a business, or you might want to say, hey, listen, I'll do my job throughout the day, and then the rest of the time I want to be able to spend some time with my family. That's totally okay, but then you just need to go for the passive approach, which buying whole turnkey property is usually the way to go, or even go through some pre-construction where you're leaving all the work to the developer to actually handle those value-add approach, and you're just kind of like transacting or assigning the units that will be built, let's say, down the road. Another passive approach will be the private lending to other investors. It is quite important for you to be looking at yourself, see exactly how much time you are willing to commit, and you can actually commit into real estate, and use that to kind of work backwards and identify exactly what strategy actually works for you. And now the second step with a strategy is that now that you decide exactly what you want to do, the very quick way for you to really understand whether or not this can actually work is to just go on YouTube, Google, ChatGPT. There's a lot of information out there for every single approach, and nothing's actually new. The things that are a little hard for everybody to understand is that when you're picking up way too many different strategies, sometimes people also call bird strategy, which is really a combination of flip and buy and hold. That's where things can maybe get a little bit complicated, but you just need to decide exactly what you're going for and try to do a deep dive on that specific strategy and see if it actually makes sense. Now, the next step is, once you understand exactly what you're trying to do, go look for market. There's a few criteria that I will always advise people on not to do. Okay, number one, make sure you really look at the population size, right? If the city or town only has less than like 20,000, 50,000 people, that means that there's not a lot of demand for all those properties what you need to sell down the road. Usually, the things I would do is make sure it's over 100,000 people. That's a bare minimum I will enter into a population. And number two is I will be looking at the highway. Usually, I would want to see a bit of like waveform type of stuff. You want to be checking that the city actually has a development in place where it can facilitate the traffic from north end to south, east to west through multiple different highways. The reason being is that if you're in a city, a place where the highway is only across, that just tells me that the city doesn't have or doesn't anticipate that there's going to be a huge growth of a population. Because guess what? The moment that you have additional 50,000 in here, it's going to really destroy the traffic. That usually is a good indicator for me to know that this is probably not a good market that has an upside or a future development in place. The last thing will be what I call the bonus. Every city, every place has a different, I guess, advantage. So let's say if you're in Denver, right, there's a lot of mountains, there's a lot of tourists coming over every single year in different seasons. Airbnb, in this case, let's say if your active approach is Airbnb. This is where you can look at the market, say, okay, population's here, highway infrastructure, everything's good. But there's also a bonus point where it actually will help my strategy to really scale up. So that's where you want to kind of pay attention. And another thing that I will look at in the market is also maybe might be a hospital, there might be university, colleges. Seasonally, it's going to be drawing people into that city. I think those are also quite important because that will help you decide whether or not the strategy that you're thinking actually fit into this market. And this can even go a lot deeper with the neighborhood. This is where you need to rely a lot of information on your local power team, your real estate agent, your property managers, maybe the insurance agents. Sometimes the insurance policy might be higher in a specific neighborhood because they know that there's a lot of claims happening. So make sure when you're doing this due diligence on the market, you reach out to the local power team so that you can actually get the in-depth information about the specific neighborhood. And then the last thing would be the property. So don't even look at the properties until you have a clear understanding of this. Remember, being a good real estate investor means that you're very diligent with your decision-making process. So don't reverse the sequence. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking to get into real estate wholesaling, there's another video for you to watch. And if you're looking to compress the time and learn the step-by-step in the next 30 days, make sure you fill out the application below. Our team will reach out to you.